On behalf of ICC, I welcome you all to this 16th edition of Outlook Conference. And also I welcome our esteemed panelists. Let me introduce the panelists in brief for the paucity of time. We have Mr. Vinod Perumal, President and Managing Director, Indian Region for Evonik India. Mr. Perumal has experience across various verticals, high-performance polymer, oil additive, care solution, comfort insulation, and also at Evonik Corporate Center. We have Mr. Janardhanan Ramanujalu, Chairman, SAVIC Innovative Plastics India Private Limited. Mr. Ramanulaju is a Vice President and Regional Head for SAVIC South Asia and Australia. He leads SAVIC boards in India, Southeast Asia and SAVIC Asia Pacific as Chairman. We also have Dr. Achala Dhanawat, Managing Director, Clarient India. He is also responsible for innovation management of BU Care Chemical, comprising of home care, personal care, paints and coatings, industrial lubricants, crop solution, oil and mining services. And we also have Mr. Ganeshan, S. Ganeshan, Vice President, Policy Affairs, UPL Limited. He is associated with Indian Chemical Council as Chairman of ICC's International Treaties Export Committee. He has decades of experience in the field of agrochemical and representing ICC in the International Chemical Convention, especially Stockholm and Rotterdam Conventions. So with this brief introduction of the panelists, let me contextualize the text actually before we get to the discussion. Globally, the chemical industry globally is about $5 trillion. And out of which India's contribution is 170 to 180 billion dollars, which is merely 3.5%. In comparison, China's chemical industry size is about 1.5 trillion, about 8.5 times of India's chemical industry size. Now, given the post-pandemic global focus on China plus one and also current geopolitical development, there is, it's a good opportune time for India to leapfrog and go beyond borders to get to a level, may not be in the level of China, but in near about. Global dominance has two implications in the chemical context. Some companies have, you make in India to provide for the world, could be one implication, or actually basically you start making global footprint, could be the other concept. So many Indian companies have reinforced the manufacturing in India to get into long-term contract with global majors. RT Industries is a good example for that. Many other companies have set up global footprint, manufacturing footprint actually basically across the globe by joint venture, merger acquisition, international ventures, and UPL is a good example for that. UPL has set up actually manufacturing facility in US, UK, Spain, France, Belgium. Indian companies in their journey for internationalization have faced some challenges. Couple of challenges actually we'll hear more from Mr. Ganeshan. But some of the challenges are building a compelling value proposition beyond price competitiveness, focusing on quality, focusing on being a reliable supplier, taking care of safety, sustainability. Also actually basically, other challenges are setting up local team with on-ground experience and also local insights, navigating through local regulatory framework for those countries, and setting up strategic partnership with global brands, setting up global distribution, etc. To enhance the global growth of chemicals in India, companies and government have to co-create a facilitative environment. Cultural integration with the local team is very important for companies, Indian companies going global. Strong balance sheet is very important for increased M&A activities, and focus on safety and sustainability is definitely very, very important. On the other hand, the government has to create also a conducive environment by propelling export through smoother rebates, ensuring stable policies, open trade regime with major partners, ensuring energy security, uh, further, ease of doing business, creating chemical hub with plug and play for utilities, focusing on infrastructure. I think current outlay in the recent budget is quite good, and looking outward for R&D partnership to co-develop products with major marketability. With that context setting, my first question to Ramanujalu, uh, for the theme that we have beyond borders, asserting global dominance in chemical value chain for India, where are we currently and what would it take to get us there?
I would say probably we should start humble. Dominance is a too big a word. But the global play has two components. One is being in India and then trying to export to the world and have a dominant market share. The other is truly become an Indian MNC in this area going around the world. The whole value chain starts one end from R&D, the other end the applications with the consumer durables or consumer goods. We need to pick and choose where India has its strength. There are good examples already in India. I mean, if you look at pharma, we are very good at process development and we are very good at manufacturing competencies, out of patent products, and we have a good position worldwide. Likewise in agrochemicals also, though we are not inventing new molecules, but we have very good competency in process as well as in manufacturing, quite competitive. If you go into the R&D, this is something which is a natural advantage for global companies. So they do global research, the benefit comes in. But for Indian companies to step up, this is one big area they need to focus on. Because to have a global play, you need to be competitive in research in the first place. Yeah, we all boil down this competitiveness and global play to exports and selling. But then first step is to be competitive on research. And I think this is where we need to invest substantial part of our businesses and revenues. Then if you go down the line, most of the application or the end use products, they are still not being developed in India. Either their centers are Japan or it's US or it's Europe. And we are just followers in producing them in India. Take any goods we buy as an end consumer, you will find the impact there, except for India unique blenders or India unique dosa grinder or something of this kind. Keep that aside, everything else is an international brand name. So we need to be in those markets to be able to understand what are they innovating and then be able to cope with them. So I think, like at this point in time, our strength is proven in pharmaceutical, in textile chemicals, in agrochemicals, even in automotive, where technology is given and then we can only play the manufacturing competency and export. So this is where our strength is. And if you want to dominate, then we need to start to think of research as the first investment at a globally competitive levels, and then have a global management skill. I think running an international company is quite complex. Many of us here are coming from international companies. It needs a global outlook, first of all in trade. It's not just only trying to export products. Lastly, dominance does not come just by either a cost competitiveness, because if it's purely cost, China will still be dominant. I think, like we have a lot of niche. For instance, I'll give you one example, a multi-stage reaction over many days. Yeah, Indians are very good at it, be it in pharmaceutical or even in chemicals. Some of us, you named Aarti is one of them. They're very good at it and they can have a dominant position worldwide. There's another company called Vinati, if any of you hear there. Just one molecule, but having a globally dominant position. So you have to pick and choose to be dominant, and as a whole industry, we need to invest in the research to reach that stage.
Thank you, Mr. Ramanujju. In connection with that, actually, my question to Dr. Danayat, R&D partnership can help India's transition from technology importer to an engine of innovation. What ecosystem do we need to create this or achieve this?
So I think when we talk about ecosystem, it's a very big word. Let's take the word innovation. Different people have different interpretation of the word innovation. Innovation is very close to my heart because I've been an innovator right from the time I finished my PhD. But what I see in most of the industries is that the business people usually view innovation as a cost. So in my opinion, the first step towards building an ecosystem is to have a change in the mindset and start looking at innovation as a value and not as a cost. Because that's where you're going to do differentiation. And as was rightly said now, dominance is a very big word, and we need to pick up the niches. And in those niches, if you don't innovate, then it will be very difficult to really survive. The second, once we decide that innovation is a value, you also need to think, do we really celebrate innovation in our organizations? I have my doubts. So I'll give you my experience that we always see when I lead my R&D scientists, you will always see an image of an R&D scientist sitting in his lab and doing his work. And invariably, the R&D people feel that is the sales people are always having fun because they have numbers, so their successes can be measured. And invariably, what happens is every quarter or annually, the sales people go out for a sales meet and they celebrate. Okay? I'm happy to see all the business people laughing because I think you can relate to it. But how many of us really think about celebrating innovation? Do we really celebrate innovators? Do we take the efforts to bring our R&D guys out of their labs and, give them the respect that they really deserve? I doubt it. So what I embarked a few years back is, we started having a kind of a session, 1 hour, where we started inviting the sales guys, the marketing guys, everybody to our labs once a quarter, maybe for an hour. Just take them around and let them talk to the scientists and let scientists tell them how they're developing a product. Now, what happened is that the salespeople suddenly developed this respect. They realized that it takes so long for a product to be developed. What are the challenges? But more than that, it really motivated the scientists. The scientists suddenly felt very appreciated. And then we also started an initiative where we started talking about new ideas, started giving awards to people who had developed a new product and it was making a very good progress in the market. So I think that developing an ecosystem starts with celebrating innovation is my first opinion. Then we talked about funding. And I think that we are doing a lot of good work in universities. Universities do have their availability of funds. So can we look at asking universities to at least allocate some part of their funds to research projects which are addressing the market needs? I think that is important because many of the universities are doing research which is blue sky, where we don't see the impact very soon. So that would be one. The third would be, I don't want to talk about industry academia collaboration because it's a very widely used word, a very broad word. I would more talk about how can we encourage startups. For those who read the Times of India, that every week there is one day on the middle page where they talk about a lot of startups. How many of us have seen a chemical startup featured in there? It's usually all the tech, the artificial intelligence, the data science. It's those things which are always there. And I think that we need, as the chemical industry, we need to start encouraging startups because these are the ones who are going to come up with new ideas. And if we can encourage them with funds and start celebrating what they are doing and helping them to come out to the market and become profitable, I think in some ways we will develop an ecosystem. And a very long-term aspect, what I feel is, are we really encouraging our young population to think out of the box? Are we encouraging them to challenge us and ask questions? I think that is the root of enabling an innovation ecosystem.
Thank you, Dr. Ranit. Coming to Mr. Peramal, what is the role of safety and sustainability in order to ascertain, I would drop the word dominance, but to be humble in the global value chain?
Thank you for helping me not use the D word. So, yeah, for safety and sustainability, I think we have to Yeah, maybe a little bit of background before I say this statement. I didn't grow up in India, and it's my first time working in India 2.5 years ago. And that's the first time in 20 years, right? So working here, so maybe an outside-in observation that I have seen, Indian chemical industry has a lot of good things going for it, including safety. I think we undersell ourselves quite a lot. When I bring colleagues from Germany and I take them to partner sites, they're all telling me, wow, wow. Right. So they were here 10 years ago and it's totally changed. And so I think that safety aspect is something that we should probably now upsell a little bit more, you know, bring more partners from outside, try to have them understand what has been done in the last 10 years. So I don't talk about the D word, but I think there's quite a lot going on in India that people outside don't understand and maybe don't even estimate correctly. So this is important for somebody from the outside to understand. So safety, I think it's a topic that we speak a lot about in the chemical sector, but one comment that stuck with me is not safety inside the site, because the colleagues all come and say, yeah, wow, great, you know, great partner site, great customer site, but what about outside the gate, right? When you step right outside, so it's like Mumbai, right? You go inside the society, the apartment, great apartment, great house, great, nice, but then you step outside the gate and then, but that's not really the industry's call, right? It's the call of government and infrastructure that needs to be provided to support all of this very strong entrepreneurial spirit. This somehow I see as not being supportive enough. I know a lot has been done in the morning. Arunji had said that yes, a lot is being done, PCPIR. I totally agree with what he said, but I think a lot more can be done. We had a meeting at, you know, with the former chairman of the MIDC. I think Mr. Shetty is looking at me. Great, interesting meeting, because we were all just waiting for this meeting to happen so that we could talk about what MIDC has not done. And it was a lot. It was a huge, long list that everybody was, I was afraid after that he would never turn up for a meeting for ICC again. So, but this is a fact. I think very strong entrepreneurial spirit here is not matched by support from the government. And this is, for the safety, this matters quite a lot. I mean, we talk about safety, but then we talk about also these kind of laws that continue to exist, which don't exist in many places, and we've tried to talk at the ICC about this kind of decriminalization that needs to happen, which has not happened. I think it's very odd for people coming from outside to try to understand, hey, there is a lot of people who are putting in, for use a German word, Heartblood, right, Herzblut, and they put their life into it, and then they're penalized if something outside their site happens. This is really not fair to the entrepreneurial spirit. So I would say this needs to be taken up at the government level very intensely, and the government needs to pay attention now. They need to respect the effort that the entrepreneurs are doing, and really the Indian chemical sector is really driven by private entrepreneurs. It's not really MNCs that drive it. So this respect should be given. That's how I see it. Sustainability is another topic. Obviously, we are very happy to support this, because as a net energy importer, at least in Germany, we see the challenges that kind of situation has put us in Germany. But also in India, it's a net energy importer, but there is an opportunity now to switch to renewables, which I think the government needs to push. They are pushing with 500 gigawatt by 2030, the zero carbon by 2070. These are all good targets and good goals, but I think private sector can be given a lot more support. We are here with Evonik. We have, let's say, we have turned the business into a direction where about 1/3 of revenue actually comes from new generation, which is to fight climate change, improve the ecological system, right? So, and in the next 10 years, we will invest 3 billion euros, and we will get to 50% of our revenue with those products. But we believe that, you know, Korea and Japan and China, if you compare with those systems that the governments have put into place, you have to really then see, okay, benchmark what the government here is doing to support private entrepreneurship, right? Otherwise, you cannot compare to those other countries which have developed in a different way. So we should demand more right now, better yesterday, right? That would be my.
Thank you, Mr. Perumal. Now coming to Mr. Ganeshan, when Indian companies are going and setting up manufacturing base outside India, in foreign markets and competing with the local companies there, what are the key challenges that you have witnessed, because UPL also has gone to many other geographic outside India?
Thank you. That's a very exciting question indeed. Is my voice audible? Yes? Voice clear? Okay. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of our ability to operate in various geographies, let me give an idea about our industry. The global agrochemical industry is about $72 billion. $72 billion. And this year, I think we should be closing very close to 6 billion. That's our turnover. So that tells the globally about how much, where do we rank? Our share is very, very decent share, and something of a record for any Indian agrochemical company. Now the question concerns manufacturing, but if you ask me where our real competency comes from, it's marketing. UPL is one Indian-based multinational which sells the products, branded products all over the world. Now wherever you get, because in my industry, it's highly regulated industry, demand has to come from the grassroots levels. And everywhere, in fact, it's our marketing strength that drives our manufacturing one. It's very, very rare to see an Indian company selling the product in its own brand. Brand will differ from country to country, especially in my sector. You have to select a brand that would easily enter the lips of farmers in every country. So it begins from that. So that's our strength. Now coming back to, again, another number is that I think we have close to about 43 manufacturing units all over the globe. And out of that, we have close to about 13 in India, balance 30 is outside the country. Now, answering your question, how do you manage? Yes, as I said, that the demand creation comes first, so that nothing gets stuck in the pipeline. And everything matters, the way we procure goods, the way we label, because even the labeling requires, it varies from country to country and all. So I think to answer in a nutshell, the competency comes from a combination of excellent marketing and supporting manufacturing sector, manufacturing capability. That's it. Otherwise, we find this sector growth is very high. As I said, out of $72 billion, about $75 billion is coming from generic agrochemicals. And for companies in India, this is an excellent area to enter, provided you can combine both manufacturing competency and your marketing ability both. It's a beautiful one, actually. Even if you look at the top 20 selling agrochemicals, 19 are off-patent chemicals. I mean, and this is very different from the generic pharma. Generic pharma industry is still driven by the patented product, but whereas this is very different, and we have the skills to effectively utilize this to our sustained growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ganeshan. I have one more question for you, which is very relevant for the topic. Yeah? So that's actually basically, I think across the major geographics, you are seeing the regulatory requirements. And also we talked about, Sri Arun Barokaji talked about environmental clearance complexities in India. So what have been your learning in navigating through the complexity of regulatory requirements across the globe?
Beautiful. See, regulatory heterogeneity is an thing. In fact, that's the first step to be studied, and we have to have the capacity to meet the, have the compliance to the regulatory one, because they vary widely. What works in one country, what is allowed in one country is totally different from other countries. So glad that you asked this question. In fact, the first paperwork starts with what are the regulations in each country and how do we really comply with. Because my industry is highly regulated. If you don't comply with the regulations, you are out of business overnight. So that is an important one. And as I said, it's an accepted one in my industry. That is what I said, the regulatory heterogeneity, straight. So one has to cross that in order to be able to emerge as a leader. This is something that companies outside India have mastered long ago, but I'm glad we have picked up the nuances at a very, very short period and have emerged to be a global leader. And that's it. Anything else would you like me to elaborate?
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And I think for the paucity of time, actually, we'll restrict to one question. So I would like to thank the panelists for the insightful discussion that we had. I think that main takeaways are celebration for development and research and development. I think that's a very, very interesting topic. Also, actually, with the focus on safety and sustainability, we know talked about. Resource allocation, what Mr. Ramanujalu talked about, and Mr. Ganeshan talked about his experience of international journey, internationalization of Indian companies, what are the complexities they have faced and what are the challenges they have faced. So in a nutshell, actually with committed government leadership, progressive domestic industries and economy, and also the supportive geopolitical environment, I think we feel that we are at the right spot in India to really, let's not say again dominant, but to make a place in the global value chain. Thank you.